Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video on a pair of fake Louboutin Triniboot, I think is Trini or Trinity? I think Triniboot. So let's just get right into it. If you're new to my channel, I do lots of videos on real versus fake high-end luxury goods, as well as some rehab of these luxury goods. I have lots of content about reselling, so if those things sound interesting to you, please give my videos some thumbs up. Check out some of my other videos and subscribe so you can be notified when I put out new videos. So with that, let's get into the content of this video. So first I just wanted to show you guys how this was packaged. Just some plastic bags in this box, which I will admit is not the worst packaging job that I've ever seen on things that I receive online, but still, for an over $1,000 pair of boots, this would not be the way to ship this item, especially when the person has presumably paid even several hundreds of dollars to get these. Don't ship this way. Anyways, here are the boots, and I will say that the person that I purchased from was not a brand new user. They've been on the app for a while, so no red flags there, so to speak. And they had a number of other listings, so it looked like they had sold things on this app before. And they took plenty of pictures, and the main picture that they definitely had of this shoe were the soles, which can be the first giveaway that something is fake. So that is one of the things that I definitely always look for, and what a lot of these fake accounts with fake items will not show you is the soles. This listing definitely had the soles, and from what I could see, they actually looked like they were identical to what I would have expected for Louboutin soles. They have the glossy red painted leather soles with an imprint of the logo, which this definitely has. So I'll just kind of show you here the normal kind of glossy appearance of these boots. And for comparison, let me show you what an authentic pair of Louboutin soles look like. So here we have these two boots side by side, and actually now that I do have them side by side, you can see that there's a definite difference in the color. So these are a little bit lighter, these are a little bit darker, but sometimes that's not the only thing that you should go by, because Louboutins have been made for decades, so the color has varied somewhat from year to year. So I don't think that alone is something that you can base your entire decision on. But taking a closer look at the gloss, we can see that they have a very similar gloss to the material, so that's not really a good way to tell. The logos themselves are both imprinted. I would say that the depth of the authentic one is a little bit more than what I'm seeing on this fake pair, and that is just going to be a little bit harder for you to tell off of this video than by just touching these in real life. The Made in Italy logo is just, the font is a little bit different than what is on this authentic pair, and also the number is just a little bit different. Also the spacing is a little bit different, but again, I would argue that these things are not really the best way to go by saying that this is real or fake, unless you have the same exact shoe side by side and you can show hey, the spacing is totally off, the font is totally off. But again, there is some variability from year to year on how these shoes were produced, so I don't know that that's really the best way to go about authenticating these. But we'll continue on. The way that the leather is wearing and the shape of the leather sole is also a really great, and they kind of did a good job. I hate to say it, but this is a good fake. The leather is wearing, you know, in a similar way, so that's not really a good thing to go by either. And I have to say, this is really quite worrisome because the red leather sole has always kind of been one of the things that I think these fake manufacturers really can't get right, and but that is not the case for this one. So if you are buying these out there in the wild, really like make sure that you know how to authenticate these shoes. Okay, so moving on. So, you know, the heels are not really a dead giveaway. The soles, the way that it wears, the imprints are not really giveaways on these shoes so far. So that's a little concerning. One thing that I noticed on these shoes, which I've talked about in some of my prior videos, but is one of the things that I think you really can only get a gauge of when you've handled a lot of these shoes, is that the shape of the shoe is actually just not quite right. The way that the Louboutins are made, they don't curl the way that this shoe is curling. I don't know if you can tell, but the toe is just kind of like starting to point upwards like this, and the way that normal Louboutins are made, this is not really the best example because it's not really a boot, it's a peep toe booty, but you can see this is just really straight. Like the material that they use is so firm. I really don't know what they use. They must have metal in there or something, but the shape is just like, you know, you can't bend that. It doesn't bend the way that this other boot is doing. Like look at this. Like that is just not a feature that I want for a pair of boots that I've paid over $1,000 for. Like this curling is not a good look. So that's one thing to also pay attention to. Another kind of giveaway to me was the way that the leather is wearing, and there are a couple spots on this boot. But as you can see, it looks like the shiny red leather has worn through, and underneath you can see kind of a gray color, and it almost looks like some sort of fabric or something. Another area is here in the tip where again we see like some gray color underneath because the leather on top has worn down, and so this makes me think that this is probably some like cheap leather. I'm pretty sure it's some sort of leather, although I wouldn't be surprised if this is some like fake polyurethane replica imitation leather. But if it is, it's a pretty good copy. The normal Louboutins should not do this. I think the leather is much thicker, much higher quality. They use less like paint on top of the leather, although again this can vary depending on the style of the shoe. But I've never seen Louboutins do this, so again kind of speaking to a cheaper material that they are using. Another thing to watch out for is the edges of the shoe. Specifically here along the heel, there's just kind of some like messy edges like this where they've tried to paint but then also cut the leather sole. It's just not as clean and tight and neat as Louboutins usually are. And again, for comparison, here is the Louboutin, so you can just see those edges. They're very clean, they're very straight. I don't see any kind of glue or additional like edges of material peeking through along the edge. So just much more attention to detail because they're commanding a much higher cost on these shoes. With the Triniboot, there was this Velcro that was added onto the straps, and this was another kind of giveaway to me. Again, I don't have a Triniboot to show you side by side, but the stitching and the edges on these booties, they're not clean. There's like a single stitch, they're not sharp edges. So again, I wouldn't have expected something like this for Louboutin, even though I haven't had a lot of shoes that have the Velcro on them to know and to compare. Alright, and then the final piece of evidence that made me realize that this shoe was fake is the lack of attention to detail on the inside of this shoe. So first of all, the inside of the shoe is black, and this isn't typical of a lot of Louboutins. I know that they have done that in some recent years, or maybe on like limited edition or special production of some shoes, but most of the time they actually have a tan interior color leather. The inside sole also does have a lot of attention to detail. It's actually stitched into the inside of the shoe with very clean, tight stitching. And so that's kind of the majority of Louboutins that you'll see out there, is they actually have this tan leather interior leather lining for all of their shoes, including their boots. And that's just kind of like their very classic customary way that they do shoes. But again, limited edition or like some newer shoes I've noticed will have different color interiors, including black. So I don't have a lot of experience with this boot, and so when I saw pictures of that, that wasn't something that threw me off. But after receiving these boots and the additional things that I've shown you so far, made me kind of question that. And so when you actually look at this particular style, which was only produced one time, there's no black interior that came with this boot. So that is, again, not an authentic feature of this particular style. And then finally, as you can see on the inside here, there's the inner lining is coming away from the edge of the shoe, and you can actually see what's paper but white underneath the black leather sole. That is, again, not something that you should ever really see with Louboutins, because again, those inner liners are either glued on very well, or the portions of them are stitched. This one has no stitching to it, so maybe I can even pull this up and show you, but it's really just kind of glued on down there. But there's no stitching to this the way that we see here. So as you can see, they're kind of totally gross and dirty in there, but you can see they've been worn, and there's been stress and pulling on that inner sole, so you can actually peek and see that the inside leather liner is showing. So again, not something that you would ever really see with Louboutins. So all of those features put together confirmed to me that this was unfortunately a fake pair of Louboutins. I've obviously done lots of videos on fake replica shoes, but I have to say this is probably one of the better replicas that I'm seeing out there. So again, I hope that this serves as kind of a warning to you if you are out there buying either for yourself or for reselling purposes these luxury brand items, and specifically Louboutins. The replicas out there are getting better and better all the time, and I hate to see it, but I have faith that there will be hints and traces that these items are inauthentic for you to be able to pick up on them, because again, it just stands to reason that if they are trying to make replicas, they're not going to be able to command the same price for them as Louboutin does, because they're not using the same quality of materials, they're not spending the same amount of time on production, the quality and the attention to detail is not going to be such that you would see with the authentic Louboutins, and so that will translate into some piece, some aspect of the shoe that is just not quite right, doesn't look right, doesn't wear correctly, doesn't hold up, and so there'll still be ways to be able to authenticate these items. But again, it just means that we have to educate ourselves more, and if you don't feel comfortable authenticating them at home, then there are so many services out there that you can use to get that extra peace of mind and make sure that you received something that is worth what you paid and that you are supporting an ethical business. So with all of that being said, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Please check out my other videos and like and subscribe. All right, see you guys later. Bye.